This 11-year-old little girl was held captive for 18 years by a convicted offender and his wife and forced to bear 2 of his children. This is Jaycee Dugard, and we're going to do a recap on her story and where she is now. Jaycee was born in 1980, and when she was 7 years old, her mom married her stepfather, Carl. Just 2 years later, her little sister, Shayna, was born. In 1991, Jaycee and her family packed up all of their belongings and moved to South Lake Tahoe in California. Her mom and stepfather were looking for a safer environment to raise their 2 daughters. Just months later, on June 10th of 1991, Jaycee was walking to the bus stop when she was kidnapped. These are Jaycee's kidnappers. This is Philip Gerardo and his wife, Nancy. Philip is actually a convicted offender. He was actually sentenced and arrested in 1976 for the kidnapping of a casino worker. He was actually given life plus 50 years, but he was paroled after only 11. And soon after that is when he kidnapped Jaycee and kept her captive for 18 years. These 2 spotted Jaycee walking to the bus stop that morning. They pulled over in their gray car, used a stun gun on her, and then threw her in the back seat. Nancy allegedly threw a blanket over her. Jaycee says she remembers hearing him laughing and saying, "I can't believe we got away with it." Jaycee's kidnapping did not go unnoticed. It was actually witnessed by a couple classmates that were already at the bus stop, and her stepfather, Carl, had actually been watching and witnessed it. He said he heard her scream and then she was gone. He ended up jumping on his bike and followed the car as far as he could. Once the car started to get away, he pulled over to a neighbor's home and dialed 911. Jaycee was then driven 120 miles away to Antioch, California, to this area. This is the backyard of the Gerardo's home where she spent the next 18 years of her life. It was a series of shacks and tents and a shed. When they arrived home, they took Jaycee into this encampment in the backyard, forced her to take off all of her clothes, handcuffed her, and then Richard Gerardo forced himself on her and continued to do this to her for years. Jaycee says that he used to make her dress up and wear clothes for his fantasies, and that he once told her that he had a problem and had to take her to save other people. She said that he basically said it consumed his thoughts, and by taking her, she was saving others. Jaycee said for the next 3 years, he forced himself on her repeatedly until August of 1994 when she gave birth to their first child. Then the incidences seemed to slow down. Jaycee said the final assault happened in 1997 when she became pregnant with their second daughter. She gave birth to this baby girl in November and basically said her 2 daughters are the reason she survived this. She said she no longer felt alone. Jaycee's 2 daughters were taught to believe that these 2 were their parents and that Jaycee was actually their sister. They had never seen a doctor, they had never gone to school, and Jaycee was trying to homeschool them as best she could in the backyard, but they abducted her when she was 11 years old, so that was the last time she had had schooling herself. In August of 2009, Richard Garrido took his 2 daughters, who are now 15 and 11, to the University of California, Berkeley campus. He had gone to the campus in search of an event permit to hand out religious flyers. The campus police became extremely suspicious of him. They said he was extremely unstable, so they actually told him he needed to return the next day to get it. When he left, the officer ran a background check on him, finding out that he was a convicted offender and was on parole. The next day, August 25th of 2009, he returned to the campus with his daughters. The officer said that the daughters' behavior and their emotions were not right. They said they were very flat, they had lifeless eyes, and they just did not look right, very pale and lethargic. After he left on that day, they contacted his parole officer only to find out that he actually had no daughters. The next day, August 26th of 2009, Philip was summoned to the parole office. He actually brought his wife Nancy with him, but he also brought Jaycee and his 2 daughters. He initially was denying everything, but he did eventually admit to kidnapping Jaycee and everything he had done to her. The next day, Jaycee was finally reunited with her mom and her sister Shayna. Jaycee and her 2 girls moved in with her mother in an undisclosed location in California. They ended up living their life the best they could. They adopted pets, they got their driver's license. She, of course, got full custody of both girls. Jaycee's 2 kidnappers were, of course, arrested and charged. They were charged with kidnapping and false imprisonment. He was also charged with multiple counts of forcing himself on Jaycee, lewd conduct with a minor, and inappropriate child photographs. Philip actually pled not guilty in April of 2011, but then he changed his mind and they both actually pled guilty. In April of 2011, Philip was sentenced to 431 years. Nancy was given 36 years to life, and she's actually eligible for parole in 2034. Today, Jaycee continues to try and live her best life. She has a bucket list where she's actually crossed off a number of items. She's swam with dolphins, she's gone hot air ballooning, she's seen the pyramids in Belize, and Jaycee has also written 2 books. In 2011, she wrote a memoir titled A Stolen Life, and in 2016, she wrote a book titled Freedom, My Book of Firsts. Not much is known about Jaycee's daughters. She keeps their life fairly private from the public, as it should be. They did attend college, and she says that one day if they want to share their story, they can do it in their own way.